Everyone says your college roommate can make or break your first year. I didn't realize mine would make me fear falling asleep. I started my freshman year at a small university in upstate New York. I just moved away from home, excited for independence, meeting new people, all that. The dorm I got assigned to wasn't anything fancy. 2 beds, 2 desks, a window that faced a brick wall, and a faint smell of detergent that never quite faded. My roommate's name was Evan. He seemed totally normal when we first met. Kinda quiet, but polite. Brown hair, clean cut, a bit socially awkward, but friendly enough. He was majoring in computer science, spent most of his time on his laptop, and didn't talk much unless you asked him something directly. The first couple of weeks were fine. We had a good routine. He stayed up late coding, I went to bed early for my morning classes. But after about a month, I started noticing things that didn't make sense. Evan never seemed to sleep. At first, I thought he just stayed up late. Normal for college, right? But after a while, I realized it wasn't just late. I'd wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. to use the bathroom, and he'd still be sitting at his desk. Sometimes he'd just be staring at the screen, not typing. Other times, the laptop wasn't even on. Once around 4 a.m., I woke up because of this faint clicking sound. It was pitch black except for his desk lamp, and I saw him sitting there, staring at his screen, clicking the mouse slowly. Click, click, click. But the screen was black. I whispered, "Evan, you good?" He didn't answer. The next morning, I mentioned it casually, but he just smiled weirdly and said, "Yeah, I was just thinking." That phrase stuck with me. I was just thinking. It became his go-to line. Over the next few weeks, I noticed more stuff. Sometimes I'd find him standing by the window at night, just looking out at the brick wall. Other times, he'd be sitting on his bed, eyes open, not moving. I started wearing headphones when I slept because the silence made me paranoid. Then one night in late October, something happened that still makes my skin crawl when I think about it. I'd gone out with some friends and came back around 1 a.m. When I walked into our room, the lights were off except for his desk lamp. Evan was sitting in his chair, facing my bed, not his desk, my bed. I froze for a second, trying to process it. "Hey man, everything good?" I asked, half laughing. He blinked slowly and said, "You shouldn't go out so late." It wasn't the words that scared me, it was the tone. Completely flat, like he was reciting something. I forced a laugh. Okay, Dad." He didn't react, just turned back to his desk. After that, things got worse. I'd wake up and find my stuff slightly moved, drawers open, shoes repositioned. Once I found one of my notebooks sitting on his desk, the pages flipped through. When I asked him about it, he said, "I was just curious what you were writing." The next day, I bought a small combination lock for my drawers. Then came the night I'll never forget. It was around 3:30 in the morning. I woke up to a sound. A soft snip, 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 like scissors cutting fabric. When my eyes adjusted, I saw Evan sitting cross-legged on the floor near my bed. He had a pair of scissors and was cutting tiny strips off my pillowcase. I sat up fast. "Dude, what the hell are you doing?" He froze mid-cut, looked up at me with wide eyes, then smiled. "You talk in your sleep," he said. "What?" He stood up slowly, still holding the scissors. "You said something last night. I wanted to know if you'd say it again." I didn't even respond. I just grabbed my phone, walked out of the room, and stayed in the lounge until sunrise. When I came back, he was gone, along with his backpack and laptop. I reported it to the RA, who said Evan had been moved to another dorm temporarily because of a personal issue. They didn't tell me what it was, and I didn't ask. A week later, I saw him across campus. He was sitting alone at an outdoor table, staring straight ahead. When he noticed me, he smiled and mouthed, "I was just thinking." I transferred dorms at the end of that semester. 2 months later, I heard Evan had dropped out. Rumor was he'd been caught entering someone's dorm room at night, just standing there, watching them sleep. No one ever found out what he was doing or why he never seemed to sleep. But sometimes, when I wake up at night, I still hear that faint click, click, click in my head. Sometimes it's not the noises that keep you up at night in the dorms, it's the silence that follows them. I went to a mid-sized university in Pennsylvania, one of those campuses where the dorms were old brick buildings that had been updated just enough to pass inspection. My hall, Maple Residence, had a reputation for being quiet. Most of us were serious students, not the party type. It was my sophomore year, and I just transferred into a single room on the 3rd floor after my old roommate moved off campus. Having my own space felt great. No snoring, no weird schedules, just me and my coursework. The only odd thing about Maple was the hallway layout, long, narrow, and slightly curved, so you couldn't see from one end to the other. At night, the motion sensor lights would flicker on one by one when someone walked through, creating this eerie wave of light. During the day, it felt totally normal, but at night, that hallway felt like something out of a bad dream. It started around late September. I was lying in bed around 2 a.m., half asleep, when I heard soft footsteps in the hall. That wasn't unusual. People got up for water or the bathroom all the time. But then I heard it again the next night. The same slow, shuffling steps. I glanced at the crack under my door. The motion light outside flicked on. Someone was standing there, but they didn't move. The light just stayed on for nearly a full minute. Then it clicked off. I didn't think much of it until it kept happening. Always between 2 and 3 a.m. One night I got curious. When I heard the footsteps, I quietly got out of bed, opened my door just a crack, and peeked into the hallway. At the far end, illuminated by the motion lights, was a girl. She was standing barefoot in the middle of the hall, wearing a long gray t-shirt that looked more like an oversized sleep shirt. Her hair covered most of her face, and she was swaying slightly, like she was half asleep. I thought maybe she was drunk or sleepwalking. I called out softly, "Hey, you okay?" She didn't respond, just turned slowly toward me, then walked in the opposite direction until the lights faded one by one. The next morning I mentioned it to the RA. He frowned and said, "You sure? We don't have any girls living on the 3rd floor. That's the guy's wing." I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. I checked the resident roster later that week, no female names on our floor. That freaked me out more than I wanted to admit. For the next few nights, I left my door locked and tried to ignore the noises, but around 2:15 a.m. one night, I heard a soft tapping sound, tap, 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 right outside my door, then a whisper, "Can you help me?" My heart stopped. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The whisper came again, a little louder. "Please, help me." I wanted to believe it was a prank, but the voice sounded shaky, almost desperate. Then, suddenly, a light knock. Gentle, rhythmic, like someone was too weak to knock harder. I grabbed my phone and texted my RA. "Someone's outside my room right now." No response. After a few seconds, I heard the motion light click off, followed by silence. The next day, I ran into Mark, the janitor. He'd been working in the dorm for years, one of those older guys who seemed to know everything about the building. I asked, trying to sound casual, "Hey man, did anyone ever, see weird stuff here at night?" He looked at me for a moment, then said quietly, "You in room 317? My stomach dropped. "Yeah." He sighed. Back in the 90s, there used to be co-ed housing. A girl, junior student, went missing one night from that floor. They found her 2 days later behind the building, said she'd fallen from one of the windows. I froze. "What window?" He gestured vaguely toward my hallway. "One near your room. They sealed it after that. I didn't sleep that night." I tried to convince myself it was all coincidence, just stories and overthinking. But a few nights later, something happened that erased any doubt. I woke up to a noise, faint, muffled crying. It was coming from the hallway again. Against my better judgment, I opened my door. The lights flicked on one by one, and there she was again. The same girl, barefoot, same gray shirt, standing near the sealed window at the end of the hall. She was facing the wall, sobbing quietly. I whispered, "Hey, do you need help?" No answer. I took a few cautious steps forward, and just as I did, the motion lights behind me started turning off one by one, like someone was walking toward me from the opposite direction. I spun around, No one there. When I looked back, the girl was gone. The next morning, I told the RA everything. He looked spooked, but said, "Man, maybe it's just stress. Midterms are rough." But that night he came knocking on my door, pale, shaken. He said, "You're not going to believe this, but I just saw her." Apparently, he'd been walking back from the study lounge at around 2:30 a.m. when he saw a girl standing barefoot in the hallway near my do, or when he tried to talk to her, she turned and walked straight through the exit door at the end, the one that was supposed to stay locked 24/7. The school never made a statement about it. They just quietly moved everyone off the third floor for maintenance. A few weeks later, the floor reopened, but my old room, 317, stayed empty. The door's always locked. Sometimes, when I walk by late at night, I still see the motion lights flick on by themselves, like someone's walking the hall again, looking for help.